Hello everyone. So this is the first session to the CEH course that we are having here. So let's get started with that. This is just an introduction to ethical hacking, and it would cover content which is pertaining to the audience, which are cybersecurity learners, and it pertains to the curriculum which is at beginners and intermediate level. So these are the objectives that will be covered in this session. So, wherein participants, after attending this session, should be able to describe and the ethical hacking as a term. Obviously, after understanding what are threats, what are various attack vectors, and what are countermeasures, then the various job roles that are related to ethical hacking, and how a beginner can take initial steps to become an ethical hacker. Materials required for this particular session is not more than an internet connection and the device with which you've connected, so which is a mobile or a laptop. This is a breakup of the topics that I would be taking in this particular session, wherein I would be spending 20 minutes into introduction, terms, and definitions. Then we will discuss threats, attack vectors, and their types. Then why EH course is required and what is its importance. And then few minutes we will spend on the prerequisites, like the skills that are required for a person to become an ethical hacker, the job roles, and the information warfare. And then a small introduction on that what steps a person can take to become an ethical hacker. So before proceeding ahead, I would like to discuss the term ethical hacking and what actually ethical hacking is. Before understanding and delving deep into ethical hacking, it is quite important for all of us to understand basic terms. The terms such as vulnerability, risk, threat, exploit, payload, host or a target, and non-repudiation. So if you talk about vulnerability, it means that what is the weakness of a particular system or an application or network that is lying in the open, and it is usually can be taken benefit of by a threat. Threat is an actor or a person which actually, or a device which actually can be to may exploit the vulnerability. Then risk is the percentage or the term which is given to the probability of a vulnerability being exploited. So what happens in risk analysis is that you list down all the vulnerabilities that are possible in a system, and it is mapped against all the threats which are there in a system. Then you decide and give them some kind of numbers as like what is the probability that this particular weakness can be maliciously used by a particular person or a group or a particular hacker. Then the term called exploit. Exploit relates to the code which is written by malicious users, and it is usually used to break into a system as an initial step. So once an exploit is used, people, hackers use a payload so that they can actually remain in a system and then quietly exfiltrate the information out of it, or disrupt some kind of services, or destroy some kind of a data, which is of some kind of a value to the owner of the system. So host or a target term relates to the system which is under attack and which is being exploited. Then there is a term called non-repudiation, which means that let's say I send an email to somebody, but there is some kind of a digital footprint that particular email has, or there is some kind of information which is tagged along with that email, which a person cannot deny, saying that I did not send this particular email. Similarly, there are various tasks electronically that a user performs, and it is tagged along with some kind of a digital information, which the person cannot deny, saying that I did not do this. So it's a very important term. So every one of us should keep in mind. So that's with the terms. So generally, we should keep these terms in mind, and there's some additional terms we should be aware of, such as zero-day exploits, botnets, etc. Okay, so with these terms as a backdrop or a background, we need to understand what is hacking. So it's really a very methodical process of identifying first and then exploiting the vulnerabilities in a system. How actually a vulnerability gets introduced in a system? It's because some developer makes an error, or some IT administrator or a person who is responsible for doing some kind of a configuration in an application. They do some kind of a mistake or an error. There's some kind of a flaw inherent in some kind of an operating system, which leads to a vulnerability. Okay, and that is what we are calling as weakness. Now, everyone is not aware of such vulnerabilities or weaknesses. There is a whole lot of research that goes into searching for these kind of vulnerabilities in applications, in operating systems, in databases, in mobile devices. So anything that is like digitally interconnected, they have some or the other kind of vulnerabilities which is lying open and which can be maliciously used by others, and usually a hacker. So if the purpose of making use of this particular information is malicious, and which results in some kind of an information loss or disruption, then it is called hacking. And there are like very yet this particular term does not have an international recognition, and still there you might find people like script kiddies who might do not have some kind of a purpose, and those who do not even know how to go and modify some kind of a code. They just get hold of some kind of tools, and they download some kind of a code from internet, and they knowingly or unknowingly use it without having any kind of important purpose. So those kind of people are also can be grouped under hacking. They also can be called hackers. Then there are hacktivists, and there are people who are politically motivated. Those then there are people who are sponsored by states to cause such kind of information loss or disruption. Now, what is ethical hacking? Ethical hacking is use of these kind of tools which the malicious users are using, and same kind of technologies, same kind of methods, but with good intentions, where the purpose is to actually improve the overall security of a system. So you need to find, as an ethical hacker, you actually find these kind of vulnerabilities, uh, inform the user, owners of the systems, so that they can patch those vulnerabilities timely, and before other bad guys can find about those vulnerabilities. So in order to improve the overall, security posture of an organization, ethical hackers take and make use of same methods and tools to achieve their end goals, which is actually positive. So what you would find uh, in community, that there are basically three types of hackers. So one is called black hat, another one is white hat, and one is called gray hat. The other types that I've already mentioned, that there are script kiddies, there are hacktivists, there are the politically motivated people, you know. So generally you would see that all good guys are considered as white hats, bad guys are considered as black hats. And those who have usually a mix of the attributes of a black hat and a white hat are called gray hat hackers. So here I hope you understand. Basically, there are two sides. So one side is actually attacking the systems, and another side is the one that defends the system, and they actually make the defenses strong so that bad guys cannot make use of it. So ethical hacking usually is conducted in these phases. So there are usually 5 phases. On the screen, you would see that there's an example which is given is of a web application attack. So, but generally, in all kinds of attacks, like whether it is related to a network or whether it is related to a system or a mobile device, or for that matter, any kind of a system. So generally, you will find that it happens in a methodical way, and it happens in a 5-step. I mean, these phases. So if first phase is planning and reconnaissance, wherein all the information is gathered about a host or a target, and this is generally the phase which takes most of the time. Why? Because there is no time for an attacker to waste in subsequent phases. Because if environments are so complex that if we try to take more times in gaining the access to a system or maintaining our access, then there are high chances of getting detected, and the end objective might not get achieved, usually by the blue teamers, the team which tries to defend the systems. So in planning and recce, or I would say reconnaissance, you collect as much as information as possible by observing and looking at the system, either passively or actively. In active planning and recce, you basically go and interact with this people, process, or technology which is there. And in scanning, you actually understand how to various particular attacks, how the target is responding, and then you make note of them. So once the planning and recce and scanning is complete, you take the step 3 of gaining the access into a system by making use of an exploit, and you gain the access into a system. So once you gain the access, then you put a payload there which will allow you to maintain that particular access. So when you get inside the system, you actually may want to leave some kind of a backdoor so that you can come out and go inside the system again and again. And then there is a last phase wherein you decide that overall all the methods that you have used in till step 4, you do the analysis, you prepare some kind of a report, and then you apply those learnings, and and take those steps again in repeat these kind of phases or these steps again to improve the overall security. So there is one important aspect about information. It is about these 3 attributes that I would like to name. which relates to confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So what happens is that an information, is kept secret from, others. Say there are two people interacting, either on an internet or a chat, or personally they are interacting, and they find that there's a particular information which needs to be kept secret and it should not be told to others. Then that particular term is said as confidential. I mean, that particular information is said as confidential. Now, let's say there is one particular USB. If a person has a USB, he has some kind of files in it, and then the person is exchanging it with the other person. But what is the guarantee that that particular file which is there sitting inside the USB is not getting modified? So there are ways and methods to verify those, and those terms actually pertain. Those terms are actually related to uh, a definition, which is also called integrity. Then there is a term called availability. So availability is of information is something which is always in some kind of a push and pull with confidentiality and integrity. Because if you will make something very confidential, then that will not be usable by others and it will not be available to others. So you need to actually decide on the level of confidentiality that an information can have, so that it becomes usable as per the levels or as per the policies that are defined in an organization, and then it is made available. So I wanted to just mention this important information triad, I would say, and which is the foundation and bedrock of the information security. So generally, if we understand the types of ethical hacking or the types of attacks that can happen, is generally divided based on the system which is under attack or which has been chosen for hacking. So you would find that there's web application hacking, there's web server hacking, and system hacking. System relates to all kind of systems. So whether they are mobile, IoT, or a combination, networks, and then there is social engineering. Social engineering relates to hacking, people. There is one more important term called penetration testing, and which is usually compared with the ethical hacking. But before getting into that, we need to understand that there are two sides, like attack and defense, and then there is a third one, which is also identified with the color yellow. So the attack side is identified with color red in information security. Defensive side is identified with color blue, and something which has tries to maintain the balance between red and blue is identified with color purple. So here something is people. So say there is a set of people who are responsible for simulating attacks on a system, and there is a set of people who are responsible for defending it. Then usually the balance between them is maintained by a set of people who are identified with color purple. So what happens is that any knowledge that is acquired by learnings from attack side is again used to protect the system and to make the system stronger. So those set of people who are responsible for that are identified with color orange. And if there is some kind of a knowledge which is being used from the defensive side to make the system stronger, then that particular side or that particular set of people is they are identified with color green. So I hope you understand that there are like This is just kind of a color code which is used for a set of teams, and this is particularly used to basically differentiate between them. So if we compare penetration testing and ethical hacking side by side, you will see that ethical hackers usually use most of the attack vectors and methods and related tools. They are not limited to some kind of a specific aspect of an information system, whereas penetration tester is actually the scope of the activities of a penetration tester is limited to some kind of an specific aspect of a system. So generally, you would find that CEH are part of blue teams, and pen testers are part of red teams. So as far as reporting is concerned, it is not mandatory for ethical hackers, whereas for penetration testers, it is mandatory. And whenever a report is generated after doing an assessment or a security assessment of a system, that is kept very, very confidential, and it should not get into the hands of people with malicious intentions. So it's like these are all good guys, but uh, using the same tools and methods which the bad guys would use to basically keep themselves ahead in the game. And you would have actually heard it from others also that it's like cat and mouse game, because every time you even every day, if you follow some kind of a threat intelligence news, and you would find that there are a lot of vulnerabilities that are not yet discovered in systems, and they have not been patched yet, and they are just lying in the wild, and people are making use of those vulnerabilities to fulfill their malicious intentions. And malicious intentions, by malicious intentions, I mean that always it is related to either some kind of a theft of information or some kind of a disclosure which is important for a person or an owner, and it is just lying in open. You would have heard some news like Aadhaar card details or PAN card details, credit card details, are lying in open, and people are making use of those to either disrepute uh, a company or disrepute an individual, or just they are doing just for fun because they get some kind of intellectual kick by doing it. So let's discuss some kind of threats, their types, and some of the popular attack vectors. So if you discuss, like if we take threats, there usually are four types: the ones that are related to network, and the ones that are related to host, and the ones that are related to applications. Then there are some types which are related to people, process, and technology. So if you consider network, so these are some of the terms that you would find, say sniffing, wherein a particular network is being listened and the information is getting captured in terms of network packets, or someone is actually masquerading as a different IP or having a different MAC address. That is called spoofing. Then someone is making use of an existing session to pose as the same user and make use of that particular session to get some details into the system, as called session hijacking. Or someone is actually disrupting and making use of all available system memory, computing power, or a storage. That is called DOS, I mean a denial of service. And if that particular denial of service is happening with the help of uh, a combination of bots on the internet, then it is called distributed denial of service. Then there is something called MITM, which is man in the middle attack, wherein if there are two parties who are having communication, but then their communication is being listened by someone who is sitting in between, is called man in the middle. Then there is something called DNS and ARP poisoning. DNS is like some kind of an old telephone directory wherein you know the domain name, but you don't know the IP address of a machine, and that kind of a mapping is there in the domain name systems. Then there is something called ARP poisoning. Okay, I hope everyone might not know what ARP means, but a particular system or a device usually has a network card, and these network card do not look for much more information other than a MAC address. So let's say if there is an attacker who becomes part of a network and has a network card which actually relays some kind of an information to other devices which are there on the network, saying that uh, I am MAC this address, I am MAC that address. Then all the switches and routers which are sitting inside the network will, by mistake, actually send those packets to it. Wherein, so this is called ARP poisoning. So which can actually fool the network devices in the system to get the important data in the network. Okay, then there are some threats which are related to hosts. By host, I mean it can be a end device. End device means some kind of a computer or a mobile phone. They can have malwares. Malware stands for malicious softwares. So they can usually, we can do password attacks on them. They can usually face denial of service again. Also, they can face attacks related to remote code execution, wherein using some kind of an exploit, you leave some kind of a payload, and then because of some or the other action, code gets executed. And once the code gets executed, it causes some kind of a bad impact. So that is termed as remote code execution. Or you have some kind of an unauthorized access to the host. Now, generally, whenever you hack a particular machine or a system, you normally log into it as a normal user. And to achieve other objectives, you might have to raise the privilege that is given to a user. So generally, when you try to hack a box, you try to become an administrator of that particular box by logging into as a normal user. So there are a lot of vulnerabilities which allow you to do that. So you log in as a normal user and then you become an administrator in it. So once let's say that you need to again go back into the particular host, and there are times when there is some kind of a monitoring which is happening over the host and which may not allow you to maintain an access at that particular time, then you have to leave some kind of a backdoor which can enable you to quietly sneak in whenever you want to get inside that. Then obviously there are some kind of physical threats wherein someone might steal your hard drive or break it, or maybe there is some kind of possibility of a system getting destroyed by some, let's say, rainwater, or your particular mobile phone can break. So all these physical threats are always there related to the host. Then there are application threats. So all the applications are usually designed and coded by human beings only, and it is quite impossible to actually make them error free. So there are times when people do not do or leave out input output validations, and which result into some kind of vulnerability, and which causes some these threats. So there are threats related to authentication and authorization. So authentication is the term which relates to identification of an individual. wherein if that particular individual has been given some kind of a privilege over a resource such as a file, which is important with respect to that particular user, the term is called authorization. So as I gave you the example of privilege escalation, so this kind of an attack can happen as an application threat type also. So there are buffer overflows. Say a developer did not allocate the required memory, which is there for a variable something, and then that particular application is fuzzed with lot of amount of text or an input, and that is not properly handled by the developer, then that particular text will actually overwrite the memory which is surrounding the normal required memory, and it will result into some kind of an execution of a malicious code which was already sitting in the system. So that is termed as buffer overflows. Then there's something called SQL injection, wherein beautifully crafted SQL queries, which are padded with some kind of a string, are sent to the application, and application happily passes them onto the databases. Usually, you will find these kind of attacks doing some kind of an information disclosure, and you will be able to dump out some kind of a data from databases, because mostly all the web applications have some or the other kind of a backend, and the backend has a database. So similarly, you have like improper error handling and exception management. So when applications are designed, either designed or when they are implemented. So if these kind of errors are actually left out, and they can be properly studied, researched, and then they become vulnerabilities, and which can be whether it is related to people, process, or technology, and they can be uh, out in the open, be utilized by bad people. So in our case, like malicious people. So if we understand people, so if there are some attacks that are supposed to be happen on people, they are related to social engineering attacks. So the process relates to the way we do businesses. If there are some loopholes in the way we do businesses, then those kind of attacks come under process. So these are some popular attack vectors that you would find. So you have like cloud computing threats. So I hope you understand that people have created big data centers, and so even non-related businesses make use of those data centers, and there is huge risk of them exchanging data with each other. And just because it is cheaper for people, and uh, it provides some kind of ability for them to enable users to access their services over the internet, and it has made it so easy. And so at the same time, it has made them, it has created a large landscape of threats which are related to information security. So generally you would see that in cloud computing there are three kind of services. Okay, so you would have software as a service, then platform as a service, and then infrastructure as a service. So big companies have created their data centers, but they are not responsible for overall security of the system, or they are only responsible for the security of their data centers. And hopefully their employees are uh, trained on information security also, but they pose a huge risk, wherein people say they have given you access to some kind of a machine in the data center, but they are not responsible for patching them with the latest patches which relates to the latest vulnerability which pertains to the latest version of a particular application. Those people have to take care by themselves. Then there is something called advanced persistent threats. So what happens in advanced persistent threats is that someone would actually gain an access to a target in a host, and then would quietly sit there and would slowly, over a period of time, over a long period of time, would in the background would keep exfiltrating information. Usually, the cases of apps, have been found with the nation state actors. So would have you might have heard in news, and where there is some kind of a damage which is done and which is attributed to nation states. So this is a highly organized activity which requires a lot of coordination and orchestration between team members who are geographically distributed. So, generally, you would see that somehow that access to a particular host or a target is maintained over a longer period of time by making use of these viruses and worms. Okay, so by vectors, I hope you understand that it means that the attack is coming from which direction. So these points which are there on the slides actually tell you that from which direction the attack is possible. Say it is possible from cloud computing side, or it is coming from more advanced and sophisticated actors who are there and performing as apts, I mean advanced persistent threats, or it is generally coming from existing viruses and worms, which your antivirus can actually filter out in the network and can can be identified. Then there are mobile threats, the devices that you wear, your watches, Fitbit bands. So these IoT devices, all of these things are still new, and we all are exploring it. Then there are botnets. So botnets is like some kind of a code, let's say, is there inside a laptop or a mobile, and it is secretively using the computing power of that particular device against some kind of an objective. For example, let's say to mine some kind of bitcoins free of cost, or if it is coordinated with a centralized command and control, then it can become part of a bot army, wherein a coordinated distributed denial of service can happen against a single target. Let's say to take a site down, or to render some kind of set of game servers down, or maybe collectively do some kind of a huge computing or a storage disruption. Then there is something called insider attacks, wherein people of the same organization, they might pose some kind of a risk, and they do not bother whether they are caught or not, and secretively they take the information and they actually give it in the wrong hands, or they do some kind of a configuration in one particular application which leaves some a port open, and which can usually be made use of from the users who are sitting outside the organization. So if we talk about attacks, they are generally these types. Like you would find that there is something called operating system attacks. Then these are there are something called misconfiguration attacks, then application level attacks, and then shrink wrap code attacks. So I've already explained buffer overflows, and operating systems still have a lot of software those software have bugs and they have not been patched yet, because until and unless these bugs are discovered, only then some kind of a vendor will be given a responsibility to patch those. So these kind of attacks you would find in an operating system. Then configuration related attacks, you would see that there are web servers or applications or databases, some networks and frameworks. So once they are developed and they are deployed, and while implementing them, people do some kind of mistakes in configuring them, and which results in an impact. So those kind of attacks are called misconfiguration attacks. Then there are application level attacks. Say you post some kind of a picture on one of the social media website, and someone downloads it and opens it, and just opening the picture actually results into some kind of a code execution, which has some kind of malicious intention. Maybe it spawns up a process and which relays some kind of an information to a command and control center. So that kind of a thing is called cross-site scripting. I've already explained SQL injection and man-in-the-middle attack, session hijacking, and denial. So these kind of attacks can be grouped as application level attacks. Then there are times when you actually go and buy some kind of a device, and it comes with some default configuration. So let's say you ordered something online from any website, say a router, and it comes with some kind of a default user and a password. You just leave it open because no one has taken care to actually keep security principles in mind and has configured it. So if those kind of configurations are made use of and result into some kind of a impact, then these kind of attacks are grouped as or called as shrink wrap code attacks. So like these attacks are there, but what we as good guys are doing to prevent them. So what organizations do is like they create policies. So there are like generally you would find that based on the level of interaction that you would provide, they are termed as promiscuous, permissive, prudent, and paranoid. Wherein in paranoid you won't allow any kind of a interaction or exchange of information. Wherein some set of attacks or some set of interaction is possible under permissive policies. So based on that kind of a level, they are divided into these four. So some examples of these kind of policies you would find in when people want to give some access control, or they want to give some kind of a remote access to a device, or while managing their firewalls, or creating passwords or user accounts. So whenever these activities are done, they are done as per the policies that are defined. And these security policies actually help a company or an organization to improve their security posture. Then there are privacy policies which are defined for people and individuals, and usually they are done by HRs, which is related to employee records and their access. Usually, people have policies for workplaces. Then there are whenever these countermeasures are done, they have some kind of an assessment. You have user organization standards. Always whenever we deploy these countermeasures, the senior management is involved, and if someone violates it, some penalties are defined, and bad users are stopped with these penalties, and these are enforced. And sometimes or on a regular basis, these policies need to be updated and reviewed regularly, and employees are also supposed to be trained with this kind of an information. So these are some kind of a safeguards, I would say, that are taken against the threats and attacks that we have discussed. So till here, if it's fine, I would like to switch to that why and we are going to take this course and why is it important. So let's say you got trained and on the internet itself, you can find a lot of information, but usually the environment which are there in organizations are not very simple because as an ethical hacker or as a penetration tester, you would find that organizations are protected with the the countermeasures that I've already mentioned. So there are firewalls, intrusion detection systems. Sometimes intentionally people leave vulnerable systems on the network so that they can capture what kind of attacks are possible against them. So the environment is very complex, and therefore you need hands-on knowledge on tools for doing activities like scanning, enumeration, foothold. You should know how to evade these IDSs, or how to circumvent a firewall. Then once a particular objective is achieved, when you are there in the system, you should know how to cover the tracks. And then there is much more knowledge which is required with respect to mobile and IoT devices. So in this kind of a course, you would get access to labs as well as the simulated environment. Because even if you learn and acquire knowledge on the internet, you might not have access to, uh, you cannot practice those out in the open, because uh, these kind of activities are usually not considered good. And if you consider, without permission, if you try to practice these kind of skills out in the open, you might violate some kind of a law, and you might actually get punished for that. So that's why you require access to labs and simulated environments where you can wherein you can practice these kind of skills, and also learn the tools which are required to operate in a complex environment. And then additionally, you have one-on-one contact with the instructor, wherein your queries will be answered. So, and you'll get timely guidance also. So that's why you need to go through this kind of a course. So generally, to acquire this kind of a knowledge and to be perfect in usage of these tools, you need to be aware of a programming language. I would say the best programming language, to go with these kind of skills is Python, or some kind of a language which can help you in doing system level tasks or operating system level tasks and help you in automating them. Then as far as operating systems are concerned, you should know at least two, Linux and Windows. And Debian distributions have a version called Ubuntu and Kali. And then Arch Linux has a version called Black Arc, and Gentoo has a version called Pen2. So these Linux OS versions, OSs you can use. I think we in this particular course use Kali because it comes power packed with all the tools which are available, most of the tools I would say, which are available, which can be practiced. Because when you practice these skills, you require the use of some or the other kind of a framework, and that's why you should be aware. And most of the time, you would find that the attack side makes use of Linux OS. Then you should be familiar with the use of command line and terminals, because whenever you have an access or to a remote system, it would be through terminals. So you might not have a user interface or a GUI once you have a remote access, or even once you own a machine. So it is like kind of a mandatory that you are comfortable with using command line and terminal. Then usually you would find a lot of vulnerabilities with Windows OSs, and majority of the organizations use Windows, and the frequency of patches in Windows is a little slower, and there are a lot of vulnerabilities in the Windows OS. So you should be aware of like at least the Windows command line you should be aware of. Then you should know how to write SQL queries and some background knowledge of databases as to what is relational databases and what are NoSQL databases, and how information is stored, how data and different file formats are there, like XMLs and JSON or YAML. So all of these will help you. And there are some non-technical requirements as well. You should be regular in note taking. It is very, very important, because while you are attacking a system, what information might be useful to you, you never know. So note taking is something which will help you to recollect the steps which led you to a particular situation. Otherwise you have a like we all have tendency to forget, and we might not know that what steps were taken to actually reach a point wherein we were able to make use of, or you were able to exploit a vulnerability. Then you need to have strong work ethics. Then you should be completely committed to the policies that are defined for a particular organization, which are related to either one particular local area or a country, or for that matter, or a continent. So you should not have a knowledge which is you are not a lawyer. You cannot become a lawyer by having some kind of laws knowledge on laws, but generally you should be aware that what is there and what is defined and what is in the news, whether it is related to local laws or state laws or country laws. So some of the job roles I have listed, that you would see that people who get certified, they become ethical hackers or security consultants, or they become network security specialists. Sometimes they like to be admins and auditors, and usually they can also become penetration tester or intelligence analyst, threat intelligence analysts. So there are much more. This list is not very exhaustive, but on a broad level, you would find these kind of roles, which people will get into after getting certified. So as a beginner, I would say that you need to collect as many as resources as possible, whether those resources are online, or you can actually create your own groups and maybe get in touch with people, local communities, and find have an offline access also to the learning resources. Have an access to a formal course such as this. You need to create a study plan, uh, make a target, time defined, then devise a learning strategy as to when to learn what. I would say that it is best to learn one thing at a time. Whether it is related to one particular skill, invest a lot of time into one particular skill at one time. Don't try to learn everything at once, because that would confuse you. And uh, generally, you would not be able to understand initially in the beginning as to which particular specialization you would like to do in your career. So maybe you want to go into cryptography, or maybe you want to go into forensics, or you may get want to get into only application security. Maybe you would like to pose as an attacker, or maybe you don't like that. Maybe you would like to be on the defensive side. So choose that particular strategy which suits you. Then over the internet, you can have access to, hack the box or over the wire labs. So these are some CTF labs I've listed. So, you can learn in a formal course and then apply your knowledge on these labs as well as the labs which are given in the course. And then you can also, once you acquire some kind of a knowledge and you want to get accredited and you want to get some kind of recognition or you want to get paid, then you can actually go and register on bug bounty platforms such as Bugcrowd and HackerOne. So, and then those things you can mention on your resume as well. So, because they are properly valued and they're recognized in the community. So, usually, website, companies have some kind of a dedicated marketplace wherein they go and submit their problems on these platforms like bug bounty platforms. So wherein your people who find bugs in them or those who report bugs they are paid or they get some kind of a recognition. Generally, they give higher compensations for security exploits and vulnerabilities. So I've already given two examples, and there are more. So I can make a creator like I there are like 10 or 15 more I know. So over a personal chat, I could share those also. So if we talk about information warfare, so there are usually two sides to it, like the defensive and the offensive side. So an individual has to make a choice in the beginning itself that which side the person wants to go. But I have seen individuals and experts who actually have, those who are experts in both the sides, like defensive and offensive. But initially, person starts with one particular side, and that particular inclination needs to be recognized. So once you become part of some kind of a team, and then you would see that in under defensive warfare you would make strategies and actions which are more related to attacks. I'm sorry, which are more against the attacks. So it's like you would do activities which are related to prevention, deterrence, or incident response management, some kind of a preparedness. All of those activities are considered under defensive warfare. So it's like and two sides is not within a particular organization, not limited to one particular organization. So it's like information warfare can be between two companies, it can be between two states, it can be between two nations. So there is no defined particular scope of information warfare. So generally, you would term it as some kind of use of this communication and information against one actor, against the other actor. So under offensive warfare, you would see that these IT and information communication assets such as web applications are under attacks, web server are under attacks. There are some middle man in the middle attacks, or the systems are getting hacked. So that's about the information or the cyber warfare. Then to research on vulnerabilities, I've listed some websites and magazines that you could go through. Try to read them on a regular basis and combine it with the knowledge in this course, the knowledge that you acquire in this course. So you have Hacker Journal, Computer World, HelpNet Security. From EC Council, you have Code Red Center. Then you have Security Focus. So there are some that I have not mentioned yet. And if we form some kind of a group, then I will mention those also. Such as you have like, I think this free platform of Sabriri is there. Then CVE database is there. And Shodan is there, where you can go and do researches on the vulnerabilities that are published and for which patches have been released. But then you can look at Project Zero from Google, and you can see they also from time to time they keep releasing the 0-day vulnerabilities that are lying or they were able to discover. So let's wrap it up. So in this particular session, I have defined the basic terms and definitions. Then I have introduced you to some threats, attack vectors and their types, then some countermeasures. I have also explained the importance of CH course and how you can actually combine it uh, with the knowledge which is available on internet. Then the importance of using programming languages, operating systems, and the other tools, both non-technical and the technical skills that are required. And then a small career pathway to be a CEH. So that is it from my side.